Okay, I'm going to call this meeting of the Land Use and Planning Standing Committee meeting of July 23rd to order. Do we have any discussion on the minutes of June 25th?
Nope, now that I have these printed out, no, I'm good.
And I'm good with June 25th.
Yeah, and I made your corrections
On July 9th,
Yeah.
I saw that.
I
Thank
was
you
like,
so
oh,
much.
God, I'll fix that before I go.
So we're good on the minutes. Maybe we should go ahead and, well, let's do a quick one on the camping ordinance. First off, I had said that there was a reason why we could not, oh good, here's Cinta.
Chelsea.
Chelsea.
Hey.
Alright, that's okay, you're sent
We,
right now.
we just approved the minutes of the last two meetings.
Yeah.
Good work.
You like that?
I do. Look how far away I am over
I
here.
know, you are super far.
Is that right? What is it?
Stop.
Thank you. I have that printed off as well.
And on the camping ordinance, what I did is I had talked to Jeremy Fadness of WWC and Greg Jones
Okay.
about what's in zoning that says you can't have a camper on your private property.
Okay.
And what he sent me was the definition of a single-family dwelling,
Okay.
which does not include RVs, camp, tents, or anything like that. And there's no mention any more than the definition of a single-family dwelling. And so when I came back and said, so we could conceivably not change the zoning, because that's true, those are not single-family dwellings, but we could conceivably have a resolution that allows people to have an occupied camper, tent, whatever, temporarily on their property. And he suggested 7 days, maybe 14 days, but we need to define temporary, and really that's all we would really need to do, except for the definition.
So is that in state zoning or our zoning?
Our zoning. Our zoning has the definition of a single-family dwelling.
Okay.
But
And-
there's stuff in our zoning that covers trailer houses.
Yes.
And campers and trailer houses, a lot of times fall under the same deal because they're both regulated by the DMV and not property tax.
The
We actually-
single-family
I don't know if we
dwelling,
do.
has to be attached to a permanent foundation. So that kind of does that, have a pitched roof and siding, roofing materials, minimum size per HUD, comply with national manufactured home construction and safety standards.
Do you have a copy of that, Sandy?
Yeah, it's a growth policy discussion that I had done.
Is this what I'm looking, because I don't see it.
No, I didn't send it, it happened
I'm
this
like, oh, I'm even
afternoon.
looking at it.
It happened this afternoon, I still have one. I had just asked him, I just tagged him on something on the growth policy, just to find out where it said in zoning that you couldn't, and I could go ahead and pull it out of zoning, actually.
Yeah, 'cause I went through zoning
I
pretty
did-
thoroughly today. I didn't see anything about campers, camping, RVs, besides RV parks.
That's exactly why I gave up and went with Jeremy and Craig of WWC. Single-family dwelling, a building or part of a building designed for occupancy by one family. By state law, this includes foster and youth homes, blah, 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 blah. Comply with national manufactured home construction, or of a minimum size consistent with standards of the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, are attached to a permanent foundation and where available permanently connected to municipal utilities, have a pitched roof and siding materials that are customarily used.
So that has,
So with that, I mean, that to me tells me what a single-family dwelling is, but it doesn't tell me that I can't use a camper.
yeah, it has.
Nowhere does it say that.
Nowhere.
Great.
Okay.
It's just the
So, okay.
definition of a single-family dwelling, which specifically states that it has a pitched roof and roofing materials. Mobile homes, recreational vehicles, and travel trailers are not single-family dwellings.
Oh, it
Right.
actually says that.
Yeah,
okay.
it's that sentence that we get in trouble with.
Okay, so we're not asking for people to, it's not like a
Yeah,
full time, people aren't
They
like,
can't
residing
live
there.
in them
Yeah.
full-time.
Or it won't be, it's not considered a single-family dwelling, which
Exactly.
then the zoning use, it
Going.
wouldn't be considered a allowed use, principal use,
Right.
conditional use.
ADU, any of
Yeah,
those
and it
things.
wouldn't be, gotcha, okay.
So the bottom line is zoning doesn't really prohibit camping
Yep.
on your property, but,
And our ordinance doesn't,
and our ordinance doesn't either.
so there's
It doesn't-
nothing to be solved there then.
Yeah,
Except that we could conceivably write a resolution allowing camping and RVs on privately owned residential properties, for up to 14 days.
do we
What
feel
would
like
be
we
that?
need to do that, though?
Because
it's
we
already-
don't want them living there full-time.
Well, nobody's doing, I mean, why, it's
Again,
not a
like,
problem.
again, I don't think that it's necessarily an issue that needs solving. Because end of the day, if someone parks a camper in their driveway and they have their mother-in-law live in it for 6 months, that's not really any of our business, as long as it's not a public health and safety issue.
Right, as long as it's on their private property.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's not making a noise nuisance.
Yeah, I
or
thought we
anything
were,
along those
I thought
lines.
we had already established the
Yeah.
private, like,
Yeah, we were just concerned because she
Private
had
landowner.
mentioned that it was in our zoning that you couldn't.
oh,
So-
okay. Oh, that's right, that's where the tenting in my backyard.
Right. Mhm.
Mr. Mayor?
I'm just, I apologize because I came in a little bit late to it, but, and I appreciate the going through and looking at it from zoning, but one of the things that I think happens, I don't know where it's explicitly spelled out, but before anything is dwelled in as a result of anything in zoning, it gets what's called a certificate of occupancy from a building inspector.
Yeah.
So I don't know that you get to stretch zoning to say a camper, I still like your approach of approaching it from municipal code. But to me, saying a camper is a single dwelling unit, well, ADUs have to be attached, we have all
Yeah,
sorts of rules.
Right, there's a,
Mhm.
And anything that's built has to have a building inspector issue a certificate of occupation before they can live there.
The question,
Again, but I think there's a difference of like single-family dwelling and a camping.
I know.
So like, again,
And that's why I don't tend to look at zoning I don't even know if zoning could.
I
again, I think the only
and I'm
reason
not-
we were looking at it at all is because we were told that there was something in our zoning that said you can't.
And so,
And we
we
wanted to
double-checked
resolve that.
zoning, and there really is nothing
So it
there.
was just validating that somebody
Yeah.
said, hey, look here, and you said,
mm,
we don't see anything that prohibits camping within zoning, therefore we pursue or with looking at the options under municipal code.
And Greg and Jeremy, both stated that they don't see a problem with a temporary allowing of it. I think he says, I said, I think that this is what I heard at the meeting, so the zoning doesn't say you can't occupy a tent, RV, camper temporarily on privately owned residential property. It just doesn't define them as dwellings. Our thought process is to get the RVs off the, city's right-of-ways when friends visit, that sort of thing. And then he says, I think that would work, just something to clarify if it is what you want, to allow, probably defining temporary as 7 days or 14 days. I would define how many, like 1 or 2, and also that it would not require a zoning permit.
Yeah, I don't mind necessarily putting a restriction on how many.
mhm.
I
Because
also
you can
don't
see the
necessarily
abuse.
feel like we need to put a restriction on length. That's my personal thought process.
Again, private property.
Exactly.
Well,
As much, remember the whole annoyance versus
Nuisance.
nuisance.
well, zoning is described to take away your personal property rights. If it literally is what it does, because of your neighborhood, okay, or your neighbors.
Sure, but within
But
reason.
we're not getting complaints about it.
Yeah,
within
an
reason,
issue.
that's why
I'm
we're
not getting
really
complaints
careful.
about,
Yes.
People camping in their backyard in a camper.
I would like to challenge that.
Have you gotten many
Have you
complaints?
got complaints, like people parked in their, like, in a tent in their backyard?
Brandon, we had a week where that hasn't happened yet?
I don't use it.
Wait, I stand corrected. The majority of the complaints I'm getting are public right of way. Okay.
There you go.
Right away.
And that's
see,
the
that's what we're
issue that
trying to,
needs
we're
to get
trying to
resolved.
move them from
Yes.
public right-of-way onto private land. if possible, that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like you can't camp here, but if they're your friends, you can pull up in the back,
Or pull
Yeah,
into
you
the
can pull into the
driveway.
driveway.
or their driveway, or
So-
If
whatever.
they're on
Or the
their,
backyard.
if they're on their property.
Yeah.
Right,
And
privately owned residential property.
Right now,
I think that puts it squarely in the realm of what council gets to,
it's
say it is
already,
or is
it's
not.
already allowed.
Yeah.
to-
I don't-
in the absence of not allowing it, it's allowed, is that what you're saying?
It actually says in our,
Municipal.
in our camping ordinance that the only thing that's restricted is commercial for 14 days.
It really is.
That's it. That's the only restriction we put on it, is if it's on a commercial lot.
If it's a private.
Privately
Privately
owned,
owned.
commercially zoned lot.
Except for that,
Then it has a 14-day limit. But if it's a residential zone, then there's no limit.
No limit.
No limit.
So that's the way it currently is.
except for that the title doesn't match what the.
Right, and we're gonna
Right, so
fix
that's where we
that.
were gonna
We're
split
gonna
the two.
fix that, but,
And there's other things in zoning and the building side that protect if you're trying to set it up as a permanent structure.
yeah.
There's other things that.
Yeah.
But that's
If you
not-
winterize
Yeah,
your,
so-
if
That
you
prohibits
winterize your
that,
camper
yeah.
and
So-
hide it and stuff like that,
Yeah,
then
I mean,
that's, different. You're gonna have to go through
That, it
the
turns into
building
something else.
code. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're probably gonna have to
Dwelling.
put some
Mhm.
type of roof over it so it meets snow load requirements. And you're gonna have,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
just-
So again,
Or
I
if
think
it's
that's
auction-
where it kind of makes that protection of you're not gonna have a bunch of people living in campers all over the place, but at the same time, it'll hopefully get people off of the street.
Right. Well, it was like Jen, when she came and spoke, and she said,
Yeah.
I'm a rule follower. When I realized I couldn't have it on the right of way, I built a spot on my own private property to put it.
Yeah,
And that was just to store it.
No, she's like, no, if her friends come.
If her friends come,
Yeah.
it's right there.
Yeah.
yep, and
Yeah.
to store it, just,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the nice
So
thing to do.
where we are is it's not against zoning, and
Yep.
it's not against the municipal code.
Yep,
Okay,
So
so we
there's
can,
really nothing for us to do.
correct.
correct, not for
Not
private,
for residents.
not for
Yep.
residential.
Privately owned residential property,
Just
whether
real
it's
long
temporary or long-term. Long-term, do we need something to cover long-term?
No,
Nope, I just put residential, leave alone.
I don't think we do.
So if a house, the primary residence, and an ADU, and somebody also brings up a camper
Mhm.
and lives in it
Sure.
forever.
I think our.
I don't have a
zoning
problem with that.
protects that, where everything that goes in, that's where the modular is allowed. It's a
Right.
manufactured house built to our local requirements and state requirements that will be set on a permanent foundation and attached,
Right.
where you can't turn a camper into that.
No.
So at no point will a camper ever be allowed to be an ADU.
No, I
Yeah.
mean, in addition to an ADU.
Again, if there's someone that's living in my driveway and I choose to let them live in my driveway and they're not being a nuisance and they're not creating a public health and safety issue, I don't see the problem.
Yes.
Sure.
I have a question, I have a camper, I'm gonna put it in my backyard.
Okay.
I'm gonna come down and I'm going to put it in my new house that's downtown and not in an HOA.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna pull in a camper, and I'm gonna go down, and I'm gonna get a business license, and I'm gonna set up a teepee in my backyard, and I'm gonna have glamping, and I'm going to go get a business
Downtown?
permit. Sure, right in the middle of historic Red Lodge, because it's beautiful, you get to look around and enjoy the history of Red Lodge out the front of your teepee.
We have nothing in our short-term rentals or SPR that does not allow, you can do glamping.
And honestly,
Exactly.
with our STR ordinance, it does refer to residential dwelling. So then that would be covered with zoning.
Mhm.
Because then it would have to come under dwelling.
Yep, and it would
But
have
if you
to,
have a.
But there's nothing against
and
the
good luck
tent.
getting a sanitation inspection done on a teepee.
It would, if you
Yeah,
wanted to.
short-term rentals
look
do
alike.
need to have the sanitation and fire.
So,
A teepee
I
with a
understand
sign
what you're
with the
saying,
exit.
because
Yeah, that'd be great.
in
That would
Bozeman,
be really easy.
they had severely curtailed short-term rentals in Bozeman, to the point where you really could not get them.
Yep.
And so that's what people did, they got those cute little campers, like from the 1960s, fixed them up really cute, put them in their backyard, and they rented them out. That's where you could rent a night or 2 nights in the camper. So, but, I mean, and people didn't have a problem with that. That's what short-term rentals were in Bozeman for a long time. It fulfilled a need.
Yep.
And I mean, if you have a big enough backyard to set up a nice, big, fun tent, and you have the ability to give them bathrooms, whether it's.
And you
Yeah.
don't mind
Incinerator,
lack
John?
of privacy,
Yeah.
I don't have an opinion, my job is to make sure the process works.
I mean, glamping for a while was,
Would that be
having a
considered-
TV, letting them set, I mean,
Would that be considered a home-based business?
no more so than a short-term rental.
It would be, wouldn't
Yeah.
it be,
Short-term
fall under the
rental.
short-term rental? It would, because you're offering,
You're offering transient occupancy.
Yeah, it's a short-term rental.
But is our short-term rental, the way it's currently, is it limited to a dwelling, and therefore a dwelling is something that has a certificate of occupation
So-
from?
I don't think we're required to provide that certificate of occupation at this point,
No.
but based off the definitions within our zoning code and the definitions within the zoning ordinance for STRs,
Yeah.
yes,
It's a modus tollens argument, A then B, B then C, A therefore
Right.
C.
yes.
So if we start getting those requests, since we're not getting those right now, we can revisit that in the
Yeah.
short-term rental thing. So I'm like, let's not create a problem that we don't have.
correct.
Exactly.
Mr. Mayor,
Because I could see,
OTP.
you know, if someone like bought, I had a big enough yard, half acre, and they wanted to do that, they
Yeah.
could make it really
Okay.
cute and really fun.
Let's throw in a little kink here. You guys know where Charlie Siddle used to live, the 13 acres?
Yep.
Yeah,
It's up for sale again. What if they want to turn that into a camp where they set up teepees for all the kids and they, for a week, the kids are out there and they're living in them?
okay.
That would be okay?
Well, I mean, don't we have zoning for campgrounds specifically? I believe we do.
Show me.
I think that's where we come to the
The state has
commercial,
them. It's not a commercially zoned.
it's still residential.
It's residential.
So, I mean, it would be short-term rental. I mean, if you've got 13 acres in town, I think, whoever
Well,
bought it, they
again-
would have to ask for a rezoning if they wanted to actually create a business, like a resort
Yeah.
type business
If
there.
you were doing it like
That would go
a
under.
campground, I think it would then fall into a different category, which then again, talking about what's in our use table for R1, R4, R3, all those, it's not
The
a-
question,
an allowed use, it's not a conditional use.
Mhm.
They would
well,
have a
there's gonna
process
be,
they would have to go
there's
Yeah.
gonna be one person applying for the use of it.
It's Boy Scouts camping
The
out
Boy
in the
Scouts.
camps. One
Yeah,
tent,
it's not
five
like
tents,
each
10
one
tents.
is going to be individual. It's
Right,
gonna
but,
be
I mean, it's
Boy
beautiful,
Scouts.
it's a beautiful area. What if they wanted to turn it into a wedding venue with places for people to stay? I mean,
Exactly.
it would definitely be, it would have to be a zoning change there, because it's residential.
Okay.
And then it would have to go to planning board, and they'd have to present their plan,
And
and
then they'd come after us, yeah.
Okay.
so,
Okay, so I think that, you take over here, Chelsea.
Sorry, I'm just,
I don't think that we
finding
can
this for
discuss
the
the
mayor.
camping ordinance any more than we need to at this
No,
point.
like right now, I think, yeah, we,
Have we beat it to
no, I mean,
death?
it started out, I
with
mean, did
the
you
residential,
want
100%.
to allow an RV park or someone with a commercial lot in town, do you want to allow more than 14 days if they have someone who wants to stay there? That was
that was
we were
the
gonna do
original
That was
discussion.
Yeah.
that's where we started.
And public right of way was another
The
discussion.
public right-of-way is already covered by municipal code.
It is, but did you want to change it? I mean, it was brought up, do we want to change it and allow it?
What is,
So,
oh, yeah, so right now it's covered in that it's not allowed.
Right, I think, I
Exactly.
thought we had agreed that we were just gonna keep that as is, the public right of way.
That it is not allowed.
We just have to clean up that actual ordinance because
Right.
it's wrong.
Very,
Because it had more than one thing,
it's busy.
so. I mean,
Overnight camping on private land, overnight camping on public,
So,
okay, so we've,
I've got the word file, so I need to fix the, ordinance regarding commercial camping.
camping on private land is good though, right? We're keeping that now that we've
We,
looked.
we don't have anything
No.
on it, so we're just gonna leave it alone.
Oh, no.
It goes back to Dave's, what are we trying to fix? Yes, Rod?
Is there a reason not to consider allowing overnight camping in certain areas of the city? For someone who travels, like I do, where we get into town late, so we see a place to stop, that's where that, you can't camp before 8 PM, and you gotta be up and gone by 8
Right.
AM.
Right,
But it allows for the transient traveler that's just, we travel in our van, and we stayed in Meeteetse, Wyoming one night coming back from Denver, because it was late, and we got an I-overliner, and they said they got a little camping area within the city that's, available, and we pulled in, stayed overnight, and we were up and gone first thing in the morning. And it allows for some of those travelers that they're not looking for a KOA or a Perry's campground, they're not looking for hookups. They're looking for a
Picnic tables.
place to stay
Yeah.
and get some sleep before they move on. And, you know, Rotary Park might be one of them. Rotary Park is listed on iOverlander as an overnight spot.
Is it?
I had
But
to
it's
tell an
posted.
acquaintance that came into town in his van, he stopped to visit, and he says, well, I'm gonna go to Rotary Park, if I see it on iOverlander, I can stay overnight there. I'm like, no, you can't. So he overnighted at Red Lodge Mountain,
Oh,
but if he would have been in town, he would have then come downtown and shopped,
Yep.
probably got dinner, you know, probably would have gotten breakfast potentially, or stopped at the store and got something for breakfast on his way out.
what is the, up at the, by the dog park, up by the rodeo grounds, is that,
My recollection, and I wasn't part of it, was that council at that time, of which a few of you were there, including you.
It never actually
Oh,
came.
it came up and it didn't pass and go through?
No, it was never even presented
it
for
was
vote.
never presented?
Okay.
Yeah, it was brought up that they were going to be looking at it,
Uh-huh.
and, but then that committee never brought anything forward.
I always wonder
I
why
have
the
a
civic center.
I have a concern conceptually with competing against private businesses,
Correct.
with government, and, it was for Rod too, so. I have a concern / conflict anytime we start doing something that's competing with private
See, in a way,
businesses.
I guess I don't see it as directly competing, because you're limiting the hours that can be occupied, and you're not providing any services.
Yeah.
And I'm not
And
charging you
you're
any
not
money.
allowing them to
Yeah.
stay multiple days.
Yeah.
It's just you can stay
Park.
overnight.
But then you gotta go.
And then you gotta go bye-bye.
So now that's kind of where this original conversation was, that if we were gonna have someplace, let's say it was gonna be up at Rodeo Ground,
Tri-Civic Center.
that it would be a permitted use, meaning you could come and you could get a permit. Now it's, but what happens if they come in after hours, the cops
Right.
offer
Which is what
the
they would be
permit?
doing.
QR code.
How did they make sure you didn't stay there 15 days or 10 days or 5 days or whatever when you were in
You
the
could-
PC?
I couldn't tell you, because I didn't stay there.
So you,
Go back,
you
try it again.
could put like essentially a QR code at each of those sites with like a check-in. You put in your information, put in your license plate number.
Have you met my mother?
I'm
She
just saying,
drives
for the
an
kind of
RV.
folks that are gonna be doing that RV type camping, they'll probably be savvy enough
Don't
to
they,
pull out
don't
a
they call it
smartphone.
like boondocking or something?
I don't think so.
Yeah, the
I don't know, what do you think, Rod?
I think there's a opportunity for the city to have income, charge for it.
How can you charge for it?
Now I'm competing
Okay.
against.
Now we're
You put in a
Forest
box, how do
Service,
you charge for it
same
at the
deal.
campground, at the
We have the
Forest
Forest Service, whenever
Service?
you go
When
in,
they don't have internet,
Yeah.
you.
There's little envelopes for you
there's
to
a little
stick in.
envelope, you put a check in there,
you have
cash,
some little
put it
cheap,
in the box.
a lot will not.
And we have
You're supposed to.
a couple hundred of those or so within 5 miles.
Sure, but again, he's bringing up the point of, do
Those
you
are-
wanna bring them into
those
town
are,
where they'll spend money?
Yeah.
The Forest Service in this area is all,
Honor.
reservation.
Yeah.
So they have a certain amount. This year they changed where there's a certain percentage that are first come, first served, but the majority are reservation.
They are. There's always been a couple, but you may have to go all the way up to MK or, you know.
And just because we as locals know where the free ones are
Right.
that you can go to, doesn't mean,
I've always
Right.
thought that we are a tourist destination. I feel like our zoning should allow for RV parks at certain areas in town.
Great.
Because people don't want to drive all the way from outside of town. They want to be able to walk downtown, have a few drinks, have dinner, and not worry about driving.
That's, yeah,
where
my
they're- where they're
safety
camping.
concerns, whereas like I would much
They're
rather
not
have you
looking
park.
for a 1 week stay.
No,
Yeah.
and
You can
I also
The
feel
police
that
department
we
is
should have a
always-
spot.
Mhm.
traveling, and I'm not saying the police department has, you know, that's their primary duty, but they would observe if somebody is camped out at Rotary Park.
Yeah, they would notice.
I was very,
Yeah.
last year I was very nervous about even opening up that can of worms because of what the Ninth Circuit Court had said.
But now that's.
That once they're there, you can't move them, you know, unless you have a place for them to go, like a homeless shelter.
Right.
But
We're good
that got
now.
thrown out by the Supreme Court. So we're back to being able to create rules
Mhm.
on the amount of time people can stay at those places.
Yeah.
So this is a website you say that people check?
Overlander, yeah.
It's called Overlander?
Overlander.
And there's a bunch of these different types of sites.
There's like there's something with boondocking also.
Yeah, boondocking, I mean, even
Um,
like all trails and like the different camps, because,
Uh-huh.
I mean, this is what I did for my honeymoon, man. I literally traveled in my van for 3 weeks.
TMI.
But I do kind of agree that I don't necessarily think the city should get into the camping business. It needs to be very low-key. We don't have the staff to,
No, yeah.
you know, to do a lot of stuff, but if we can make it quick and easy for people,
But if you
Have a
guys said if
place.
we wanted to have zoning that are permitted for that in town,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
something, that,
I
Right.
don't think it needs to be zoning.
well, right now you cannot
I
have
think
an
it would be
RV
an
park in
ordinance.
town.
That's
I mean,
municipal. Well, an RV park, first
I-
off, to do an RV park or a campground, you have to go through the state.
you do-
So
But
it's a
it
big deal.
Right, but
It
that
is.
would is if we're offering all of the amenities.
Yeah.
Where
This is just allowing,
this
No,
is just a
No
parking,
services.
stay over.
Yeah.
it's basically parking overnight,
Yep.
Yeah, no services.
8 to 8.
Well, they can park-
Along Lions Park.
Yeah.
Right, along Zion
There's two
Park.
blocks that this spot can be, you can stay here overnight from 8 PM to 7 AM.
Parking
Yep.
lot of Veritas Market.
but I'm a little old lady who lives
Well,
across the
see, and
street
then
with
that
the
comes to
dog
the
that I
safety
wanna
issue.
take out and walk.
Because they come in and spend money.
So tell her not to
Like,
park
if we
between 8 and,
get
or
more
not walk.
people to stay in town, we get more resort dollars.
Yeah.
And here's the other piece with the little old lady part, where now we have designated areas that it's allowed. She knows where she can and cannot go.
And if
Or
it's
just-
I live
designated,
across the street from Lions Park.
what about 8 to 8?
Okay,
Like if she knows, oh.
yeah, 8 to 8, and
If she
again-
knows that something's parked there from 8 PM to 8 AM, I'm taking,
It's gonna
You know,
be
a little
not,
foo-foo out
not
at
in
7:30.
my neck of the
Well,
woods.
right now, we have RV parking in the civic center parking lot.
okay, so we
And
should
right now,
allow,
if people end
As a
up,
result of where?
But not
Why would you
overnight
say that?
parking.
but not
There's a
overnight.
sign
big
that says
sign.
RV parking.
it says RV parking.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
I can make a sign for $100 that says anything I want.
Just put it
it's our
on the
ordinance
wayfinding,
behind
it's
it.
our wayfinding sign that.
Is there a way that we can allow,
It doesn't say overnight parking.
and
No,
and it's
it's
not
just
allowed for
RV
overnight
parking.
parking, it's just
Right,
RV
But
parking.
I'm just saying, right now, if the police find someone parked there overnight, they will knock on the door, and if they're just parked there temporary because they're too tired, they're not kicking them out.
mhm,
You know, they're letting them.
I don't
So
have
that's
an
really-
issue with that. That's
so
better than
that-
somebody driving tired.
or
Yeah,
drunk
so I
after
mean,
being
to me, that
downtown
would
too
be
late.
a good place to look at having it, would be the civic center.
I agree,
parking lot.
it's very limited with residential around it, a lot less people.
It's more
to-
commercial.
A lot less little ladies worrying about their dogs
A
walking.
lot of kids.
Only have her, well, maybe
Well-
I'll adjust those hours to before school hours.
Well, here's the abuse.
Or keep it during, I don't know, I guess, I was gonna say,
I think
during
it's worth
school.
investigating, trying to,
What
like,
what
come
about
up with
the-
a couple places where you can
What
have
about the
it.
abuse of that? In other words, during the day, they go, you know, they leave by 8 AM, and then they go into the park, they do all their stuff, they come back here at 8 PM, they park there, and then they go to downtown, and next morning they
If we
take
go up
off.
by- If we go up by the dog park, if we finish getting that turned into a park and it's allowed permitted use, then that's a spot in town that does,
I don't see,
And it has 0 residential around it.
has no residential.
I mean, that's the most ideal spot
the
I
dog
can
park
think of.
ideal, especially, yeah, coming in.
Yeah,
Now, would it be 24-hour parking period?
Don't ask me, I'm not on council.
Well, I think you could, because you'd want them to be able, if they come to Red Lodge for the day, and they want to shop and eat, and go have a few drinks, and then they just want to camp there overnight, I'm like, you could do 24-hour parking.
Yeah.
And then you're done. I don't know. I mean, you could set a limit on it.
I think you set a limit on it.
Yeah.
Amount of times, like, amount of days, you can even make it 48 hours for all, like, you know, like, but then
You're
after
gonna
that
have
48 hours, you have there's people that can regulate it, like, again, just a drive-by at night would really be all you need.
And you just would have to black out some days, if
Yeah.
possible on this app.
Right.
Because, you know, the 4th of July rodeo, because there are camps all.
And that could be publicly
There,
posted very easily, to where it's
Yeah.
just like, look, there are
The rally,
events that
4-H
take priority
fair.
for these spaces, and they are reserved.
yeah.
Or if you don't mind, join the party.
Is there anything that says you can't camp up there right now?
No.
Our ordinance says no overnight camping
No
within the city limits
Just
of
the
Red Lodge,
ordinance, there's no
unless
signage.
it's part of an event.
There's no sign.
Or it's on private property. Does it say
Yep.
within the city of Red Lodge, or does it say on city property within the city of Red Lodge? Because if it says no overnight camping within the city of Red Lodge, that
No.
includes private property.
No, it's just, in the city right away, or on city.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was just
Yeah, sorry,
quoting what
on
you
city-
said.
No, city land, in the city right away on city land, there's no camping, none.
So, yeah, unless it's an event.
Yeah.
Show me a link. I'm with
It
Brian,
does,
show me the link.
it says, it's in that ordinance, it says
Okay.
unless,
The one that we're reworking?
yeah, the event, it has to be part of an event application.
So the real question, we go back to, what's the problem we're trying to solve?
We're trying to keep people from parking in public right of way and camping on the street.
Right.
So, it's specifically to preserve parking in our residential areas and in our commercial district. Correct? Is
And,
that, are
and
we all
are
not?
are we deeming camping in the public right of way as a public nuisance?
I think that there's been enough complaints to say that it is.
It is.
I'm just asking.
No, and you're wrong, again, I think it's a good question to ask, but
And Brian, you said that you'd been getting calls on that, right?
No, I don't get called.
The
No.
public right of way.
No.
Public right away.
On public right of way?
Right, so if we offer, if they have a place, like those who are transient that are just need a place overnight.
If they're
Right.
getting dinner downtown, and it's like, oh, we need to find a place to sleep tonight before we take off in the morning.
I don't really necessarily want to be driving up in the woods at dark.
And the city has a couple of spots, whether it's the parking lot behind the Civic Center,
Or the dog park.
The dog park. and then on Overlander, you can go in there and add a note that
But,
this is available except for these
I mean, you
days.
could even
And-
put
and
ten PM to seven AM.
Who's gonna do that?
Hmm?
Is that something else they add to staff's duties?
Anybody can do it. It's a public domain, and all that stuff is posted by
other people.
individuals
Other people who've
that
done it.
have
Which
stayed
is-
there. And that's
which is why Rotary Park
is
was
listed.
listed.
Somebody stayed there and got away with it.
Oh, yeah, there's people that were staying there a lot last winter.
Rotary Park
And last
might be
summer.
a good one. The city puts toilets down there.
Yeah.
So we don't have to worry about
Mm-hmm, sanitation.
Yep,
that
No
part of
trash.
it. It's walkable to downtown,
Yeah.
farther than I probably want to walk. It's walkable.
You're gonna be drunk and fall in the river and drown.
It's only Brian.
God, you're good at it.
It'll be
Well,
one heck of a night.
And the
though.
other place we talked about when we were talking about this camping ordinance a long time ago was over by, the wildlife sanctuary.
Coal miners.
Coal miners.
Park,
All right.
Yep.
over there, that parking lot. There's definitely some places where you get them away from residents, so it won't be the not in my backyard stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what, the main goal is to get that overnight camping and RV out of, in front of people's homes.
Yeah.
So we're trying to actually put it in the right
Right,
way.
and, but.
But
you
not
have to,
that right away.
You know,
Yeah.
if it's across the street, I'm like, I don't know. Some people don't.
Some people care, some people don't.
Yeah, so.
Right, but if they know of a place, that's an option.
Right, and I think that's
I mean,
the
they already
solution,
have
if you want to
people-
provide an option for folks.
People use Rotary Park all the time,
All the time.
and, whether or not they end up sleeping in their camper.
I mean, I see people up at the Vista all the time, like, there's.
Overnight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought people selling stuff up there, jerky and popcorn, selling it in the Vista parking lot. I was like, oh, yeah, I did it
Entrepreneurs.
twice a year.
But,
To the
I mean,
chipmunks?
The bottom line is we're a tourist destination, and right now, KOA and Perry's Campground are probably booked solid through the
Yep.
whole month of July. There's no place for people to go. We don't have enough camping spots for
Right,
people.
and,
Yeah.
let's say someone has no idea and they pull over in front of a house and PD
Now this person can come out and be like, hey now,
All right, and PD can show up and be like, actually, here are your options.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're
Right now
not,
they
we're not
have a lot.
boozing you, we just don't want
Not
you
right
here.
And the reality, if I go back, and I have, there was a month or two that I got calls daily. But in all of those cases, it was a camper that had been there for a very, very long time, and it wasn't,
So it's some.
chances are, if you pulled up and found an empty spot at 11 o'clock at night and parked in it, and are gone at daylight, the worst thing that's gonna happen is you're gonna get a knock on the door, and the officer's gonna say, is everything okay?
Yeah.
I was just sitting around the drive.
Keep the keys out of the ignition.
Yeah.
So right now, we have a sign that says RV parking and it's pointed towards Civic Center.
Right.
No, it said, oh yeah, RV parking.
Parking, but it's very clearly stated there at the Civic Center, no overnight camping.
That was
Oh,
based
no overnight
on
parking.
where do we give these big rigs coming into town a place to park
So they can
Yep.
go shop.
so they can go shop. They
And
might
not
not be staying, they're not staying there, but they wanna stop, pull in, whether a
Bitland.
camper or a big
Right.
tool trailer
Or just
or whatever,
anything.
give them a place,
Horse
To stay
trailer.
out of the way and easy
the
for
big rig.
Right.
And what if
you
we
know.
change the sign to say overnight camping allowed between 8 PM and 8 AM?
No, I
You change the ordinance
You have
first,
to
and then
change
you
the
can have
ordinance.
the conversation.
and I don't even know if you need to, you just take down the overnight camping sign.
Just to, yeah, I would
Well,
do
Don't
that.
encourage it.
I wouldn't,
Don't do
if,
that.
again, like, I wouldn't actually go out and advertise for this, but it's knowing that, you know, just by word of mouth and like Overland, as soon as you put it in, all these little
Yeah, people will
Sites.
catch on.
people catch on pretty quickly,
Yeah.
and
People of that lifestyle
they know.
have their ways.
Yep.
High Overlander is the Bible for boondocker. They're not looking for a long-term.
And that way,
Right.
right, like, that way it's not abused and it's not inundated with a bunch of people who are like, ooh, KOA charges this, but let's just go into the city and,
So if we took down that sign that said no overnight camping over at the Civic Center, then they're gonna camp there for 2 weeks.
I do
Or-
think it'd be good to have some sort of signage with like, these are the rules, like having that resource.
My request is just that it's not a huge tax
No.
on staff to enforce
Right.
what you guys
No.
want in place.
Agreed.
Yeah, it
Agreed.
would mainly be, yeah, so.
I would definitely look at the location.
Yeah.
Civic Center might not be the best location, Rotary Park might be more apt for that. I mean,
Yeah, they
I
have,
would look at the location.
I think future rodeo park would be a good.
I
I
think
think-
that's ideal.
I think
That's
the
my-
rodeo park seems to be the
Again,
most
no-
ideal.
So you
No
can have-
residential, they have a box up there, got a
Yeah.
outhouse.
You can even,
There's an
yep,
outhouse, and so you could have a couple places. You know,
Yeah.
maybe not right in the heart of downtown.
that's what I said, like, I
where
have the
there's lots of
options. Like, we
kid
can give them.
traffic, lots of other traffic, you got one here,
Yeah.
one here, that, both of them with our trail system will get you to town.
So is it permitted overnight parking allowed in areas X, Y, and Z?
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so now you can maintain it so that it's a time frame. You offer, but then what's the regulation we have? When do we stop issuing a permit? I give you a permit for 48 hours. I give you a permit for, what's nice about permit is you can charge for it.
Mhm.
You can start to recoup, you can recoup the cost for monitoring it and enforcing it. It gives you the capacity to put an outside limit on it. And is there a problem with putting an outside limit on it if that's what your objective is to accommodate? I mean, it's 14 days, a permit from 2 to 7 that can be renewed for an additional 7, but that's it. So a one-time renewal, so it maxes
I
out
would
at
never offer
14.
that much time,
Yeah, no,
Pardon?
not that
or
much.
2 days.
I was thinking
Yeah, that's
three.
what I'm saying,
Yeah.
is what we want, but given what we want to avoid,
I would do like a 3-day max is what I would say.
Yeah, I agree with that. And again, it's a 1 day, and you can renew it for up to 3 days.
Our ordinance does say that, with the event for the overnight camping, the city is supposed to charge, a fee that's the same as, like the Forest Service type of thing.
But I don't think we're trying to create a
No.
campground
No,
type
no.
scenario.
Or
To
they
give them
said
a
like
place
an equitable,
or-
or an equitable,
to me, the
Sure.
fee is based on what does it cost for us to enforce and
Right.
monitor it.
but
That's where
if you
your
look,
fee
I'm
comes
just saying,
from.
if you look at that ordinance, it specifically says in there that they do not want the city to compete against other campgrounds. And if it has no services, you know, then you're looking at, if all you are offering is a porta potty, then
Not
it's
even.
like a Forest Service.
Only we knew the
Campground.
people who could adjust those ordinances or modify them or tweak them.
What ordinance are you talking about?
9/11.
9/11, we're still on
It's in there.
9/11.
9/11A?
It's in there, when
Mhm.
you're talking about,
The city council is aware that allowing city-owned land to be used for overnight camping must be competitively priced with for-profit enterprises providing similar services.
Such
Must
a
be competitively priced.
competitive, so,
This has gotta be rewritten. That's a-
Does that even belong in
Where
there?
at?
I'm just saying it's in there. I'm not saying it.
I understand how
I
that
said, if only we knew the people who could rewrite it.
I'm just saying,
So,
but no, there are no competitive services that offer no services.
Right.
There's no for-profit services
Agreed.
out there.
yeah, so, and the other piece with this too, so we did get from Dave, or Mr. Mayor, whatever you wanna be today. We did get, that registration for what you need to know about the Supreme Court ruling.
Okay.
So maybe we do want, like, I think we're making good headway with this,
Uh-huh.
but maybe we wanna attend that, register for that. I registered today, it's July 30th, so we'll be able to do it before our next meeting.
July
And
30th?
see if there's any pointers that they have for while we try and sculpt this, and then I just think that we take this home, 9A, and then start making slash marks to what we think doesn't sound right, bring the work to the class and see what we have.
Got it.
But at a high level, what I hear is, the goal is to have the option for some overnight camping. Am I gonna let it be set tent, well, depending on where you set, so some overnight camping within the public right of way that has some boundaries around it.
Or on
Correct.
city land.
Yep, or on city-owned land. And so I think we first take a look at that, see what the League of Cities and Towns have to say, because that will help provide direction before we get too
Right.
far down a rabbit hole and then realize like, oh, that's a bad
Ooh,
idea.
That's not good. I agree.
And then one thing I will say when it comes to the tent option, I do think we should keep it to hard-sided just due to bear activity.
Well, and I think we have-
And
self-contained.
self-contained,
So if
yep,
you look at harvest homes,
yep,
you can't stay at a harvest house unless you're self-contained.
yep. So you
if
can't
have
be
a tent,
overflowing out the side of your car,
Self-contained, hard side.
yep. And that becomes a health and safety.
But we're gonna allow you to have a tent in your backyard that's private property, so it's okay to get eaten by bears so long as you do it on your own property.
Absolutely, it's not a liability at that point.
Nope.
That's their problem.
I think it's
Exactly.
more of a sanitation issue than,
Yeah.
if we travel in our Jeep and our teardrop trailer, we set up our own outhouse. But you don't necessarily want everybody setting up their own outhouse.
Yeah,
But if we travel in our van, we're self-contained, and so there's no exposure to unsanitary conditions.
Okay, and all right, so I agree, let's do the July 30th little,
registration. So that should be, did you send that to everybody?
I think so, it's a BCC to council,
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, I got it.
yeah. It was
I don't remember
I haven't
getting it, but I got it.
I just forwarded the information along.
Yep, so I pulled that up today and registered, but hopefully we can all do so. I will do my very best to attend it. I know that I'll probably be doing it while I'm housekeeping, so. All right, so next on the agenda, I gotta pull it up, bear with me. We're gonna go over to Brian here with temporary vendor permits. He had some suggested changes, and it looks like we even have some event
So,
permits.
it still falls under the temporary use permit. But most of them are coming in as vendors.
The temporary use is vendors,
Mhm.
okay.
The temporary use will cover, it's pretty broad on what it covers. It even covers Christmas tree sales. Anytime you're gonna come in and set something up for more than 7 consecutive days and sell goods, we go through a temporary use.
More than 7 days.
More than 7 days. That is one change that I put in there. Because it used to be if you were less than 7 days, fill out a permit, we don't require a fee. If you're less than 7 days, I don't want permits coming in that we're asking staff to do stuff with no fee.
Gotcha.
So, like this last weekend, all these people that came in for the weekend, that were just here for a couple days, they all came in and paid $200 to $250 for a business license. They're only here for a day or two. Do your thing, bye.
Because it's
Now, if
under
one-
7 days.
Yep, if one of them says, well, I'm gonna stay here for a month,
Then it's,
okay, now we're gonna get into the temporary use permit.
okay.
So that's like the, blue food truck.
Blue food truck, the red
Southern Mama?
Southern Mamas. The other thing I went through was the cost. I took the fee down to a $25 review fee and a $25 site review fee.
Okay.
We still ask for all the same stuff. A lot of the stuff is asked for when they get their business license.
God forbid we call it a license.
And so it's, the 25 and 25 is more in line with what it takes for me to look at it,
Mhm.
say, yes, this is fine, here's our rules. When you're set up, I'm gonna come pay a visit to your site,
Make sure,
and make sure that there's no hazards, everything's copacetic, your signage is right, you're within our zoning regulations.
so they're keeping, okay, so they're, instead of, you're saying this eliminates the 150 from the 8th day up to 3 months, or the 400 for 6 months. So now it's just gonna be 25 plus 25, and then they pay the 250.
Yep, they have to get a city
Right, so it stays at,
registration.
yeah.
They have to get a city registration, so
Yeah.
they're paying $250.
Already.
And I also have it in there that if you change sites, I can ask for another $25 site review.
Okay.
If you.
If they leave and come back,
If they leave and come back, if it's within a time period, if they're leaving to go to another event, come back to the same spot, I think they still fall under the same.
so like the Greek always comes and goes.
Yep,
all year round.
But he's never here more than 7 consecutive days.
Exactly.
Mhm.
This is just for the people that wanna set up for the summer
For the entire
or the
summer.
year or whatever, they can move around. I also put within the city jurisdiction. So anywhere in the city, if you're here for more than 7 days,
Mhm.
we're gonna fill that out.
Meaning if you go location A one day, location B the next day, so
Yeah,
7
so if
days.
you think you can just keep moving around to
No.
avoid it,
Here are gonna be, every site, wouldn't they be another,
it could be
potentially
required.
25?
Like, you're more than welcome to move, but it's gonna cost you $25 every time you move.
Every time you move.
So it will make it more apt for them to set up where they're at and still meet the zoning. We're still gonna ask for, I need a letter from the property owner,
Mhm.
because you gotta be on private property. I need a letter from the property owner saying this is okay, so we don't get a call from them. What are you gonna do with your garbage? What are you doing for the rest of your employees? All the same questions are asked, it's just, we're simplifying it. If you're just coming in for the weekend,
Cool.
hey, great, as long as you've got your city business registration, if you wanna set something up. And then I also made it more in line with our zoning. So the requirements on it in the zoning is, I can give you a 6-month temporary use. Once we've got through those 6 months and everything's copacetic, we can renew it.
We can,
If it's not, we can deny it. And
but we can only renew it
no,
Once?
that's not in the zoning.
Uh-uh.
So the zoning
It-
reads, I give you a 6 month, I give you a 6-month extension, and if it's going good, then I can give you an annual
Yeah,
renewal.
no more, yeah.
So you're remembering what I remember that says a one-time extension, and for the record, it still says a one-time extension, but then right underneath where it says a one-time extension, it says, and you can continue to ask for another extension. So there's some wording there that needs to be cleaned up.
It-
At the same time, they
Yeah.
talk about parking in resident, no, if it's a permitted use, then there's not a drive-through allowed, where right now it just says no drive-throughs.
Yeah,
So
we
there's
have,
some-
yeah, I've already got that highlighted in
I was
zoning.
at the planning board meeting where that was actually changed, when the red barbecue truck came to the planning board meeting, because they were gonna stay year-round forever. You know, that was their goal.
Yeah,
And I don't know what happened there, but, so we made it so that if it was on private property and there were no issues, then after a year, they could go to an annual renewal instead of having to leave for 6 months and come back.
But it also allows us every year to look at that.
Right.
that, hey, last year was great, this year you have not followed any of the rules, we are not going to renew.
And it used to be, that was not the intent. The intent, and I think it was, as I understood it, the intent, and I remember James talking about it, was to create an equal playing field, was, so I remember when La Palmitas first came in, he had the truck down on the south side of town.
Mm-hmm.
And the original intent was, we don't want those guys to have an unfair advantage against the businesses
the brick and
in
mortar.
town. Or we regulate the stink out of businesses, we can't have somebody we don't regulate because that gives them an unfair advantage. And so that was where you are remembering the same time I was, because we were on planning board together. It was there and it was a one-time extension. You've proved your concept, now get on with it. Somewhere in that, they've changed their mind where we need that to offset, or we like that concept in food trucks and that's there.
I like that, I actually like that, because then La Comida had to go to brick and mortar. So they'd already proven that there was there was business in town for what they were doing, and they went to brick and mortar.
Well, that's really hard to do now, just so you know. I mean, rent downtown is like
Wow.
$3,000 for really small spaces.
Right.
And, I mean, and there's no place for people, there's very few places for new businesses to go in.
Yeah, it's not like then when we had, you know,
Yeah,
50% of downtown empty.
Yeah.
And you can-
There's still a turnover every
There,
year.
there is,
A
but
little
when you're
bit, but I
looking
mean,
at,
it's not
commercial
like it
kitchen
was.
and being health inspectors and
Yeah.
it's
It's
very
okay.
expensive.
And I mean, now you go to try and buy a
to-
commercial building downtown, it's $775,000.
Well, it's not gonna sell for that.
And they still have to follow the same requirements.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to-
For health,
Yes.
for safety, I mean,
Right.
the cooking facilities in these have the same type of fire suppression.
Yep.
That are gonna, I mean, they still have to follow those same rules.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, they're very.
The growth policy clearly states that we do not want to encourage outside of the downtown so that you take business out of the downtown. You start putting business in the community entrances, and that takes people out of the downtown. So it's really clear that we don't want to build up. In other words, we don't want a big old mall down there with all kinds of food things, because that will direct people out of the downtown. We want to maintain our downtown. So by allowing a food truck, for instance, to park permanently, you know, at the edges of town, that takes people out of the downtown area.
Well,
So
they
should we
have
tell
to be on
Boxcar to
private
get the hell out?
property.
But
They
they're on
can't,
private property.
they're not in the city right away.
But they're still taking
It has
business
to be-
away.
They're not,
Then you have to change the zoning so you can't have a restaurant in the city entrance.
but are they taking business away?
I really don't think that it does.
I don't think.
I don't think it does either, especially like,
If anything, it's helping extend our downtown and make it more profitable be on those either end.
yeah, that's
Because
not
for a
really
while, it used to
extending.
be just those 3 blocks, we're trying to expand and it stretch it out.
Well, and
I
There's
you
some
know-
clear wording in growth policy, I'm sure that the mayor's looking it up,
but sitting in a,
that refers to this.
at a restaurant waiting for 2 hours versus walking down.
Well,
and
it's
waiting for-
allowed now. I mean, the zoning allows for the food, for temporary vendors to be there.
And, I mean, I
And
think that's the
already
whole
allowed.
key
It's
word is
just-
temporary,
Yeah.
you know? I mean, I've seen,
From what I've seen of these changes, I have no issue.
I have no issues with
I
them
mean, they're
either.
not gonna
I'm-
dig up and hook up city services, they're not gonna, I mean,
Right.
there's a lot of things they're not gonna do. They're not gonna provide indoor seating, they're not going to.
Right.
Well, that
And,
gives
which
them,
then eliminates any,
Winter
like,
is.
6 months out of the year.
And
Right.
most of the vendors that are coming in are fighting for places in the downtown district.
Yeah, they want to
No,
be.
they want to be
They don't
there.
wanna
Yeah.
set up a food vendor where nobody's gonna walk by.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't necessarily want to go out to AY Supply and set up their food truck. That's not what they want to do.
Dave would eat all, he'd be there all day.
You know.
I just like, I like the concept of what we did, I
You
like
love
what we
that
did
idea.
with La Palmita.
Yeah, well, that was changed. It's no more that way. The
It can be-
planning board voted and
It
changed
can be
it.
changed again.
And then the council voted and passed it. But
Yeah.
the planning board changed it too.
So I aligned it with our current zoning.
Mm-hmm.
I changed the fees to a more realistic of what we're accomplishing. All we're trying to do is, yes, we have all your documentation, yes, you're meeting our zoning requirements. So in my mind, a $400 additional fee to the $250 business registration and a $500 bond, we're getting to the point where
That's
we
ridiculous.
don't want you. We want
Yeah.
you here if you're willing to spend
$1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'll be
So-
lucky to make that in sales that day.
So the big question
Yep.
I have was, is the 25 and 25 enough?
That was my question too.
So we are kind of getting short on time.
Okay,
So, but
so that's the question, you guys.
I think this looks
once you're
good,
done-
and I think it all makes sense. And I think, are we all in agreement to that?
I agree with this.
If you think that's sufficient, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean,
So
you're
then
you're the one doing the
At some
footwork.
point, I'll have to bring a motion to the council to amend our fee schedule.
Okay.
Yep.
I can do that.
I wanted to do a quick, follow-up.
Perfect.
The planning board did the Spire zoning amendment, and that failed. And I just wanted to say that the good news is that he did withdraw his request for the zoning amendment, so it's not coming to city council at this time.
Actually, it is, but I'll talk about that at the first of the meeting. So
I see.
you're 6 minutes over and we have to start another meeting.
Yep, yeah, 6 minutes, we have 3 minutes.
No,
Yeah.
in 3 minutes, the other meeting starts.
Oh,
Isn't that how we have it scheduled?
fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other
Isn't
two
that fun?
things- The other two things are pretty self-explanatory.
I'm gonna look through them all just to,
Thank you very much, Brian.
thank you for doing all
They'll
that
put
work.
you first on the agenda next time.
Do we wanna extend, so, because we do have
Huh?
public here for
Oh,
comment?
she did have a,
What are you gonna do for the next, are they here for this meeting or the next meeting?
I'm assuming Kathy.
Oh, yeah.
She's been here the whole time.
I
Yeah.
just have a question.
Yeah.
We haven't met him, Kathy Benton, and I just came to hear the Spires thing.
Okay.
It's going to be on the agenda at
It-
6, or it is not?
It is on the agenda, but the only possible outcome is for it to be tabled and go away. You should stick around for 6 o'clock and for the assignment.
I know,
Like,
Kathy,
I never announced it.
Yeah.
there will be people speaking, I know that,
Yeah.
I've talked to people that were gonna be there
Yeah,
tonight.
and I know that, but
Yeah.
I just wanted to come here to make sure
So,
that
yeah.
I was hearing the summary correct.
So the short version is it was noticed as a public hearing in the paper a month ago.
Right.
The withdrawal of the application happened Thursday afternoon. So we have to have a public hearing, however, the only available option is, I'll entertain a motion to table, I second. Discussion, let's vote.
Okay,
That's the only acceptable option.
got it.
Given that they turned in a letter and it's in the packet that says withdrawn,
they're withdrawn.
there
right.
will not be, hey, we'd like to unwithdraw is not an option.
That's, yeah, they just have to reapply for
Yes.
Cool,
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Brian,
Brian.
thank you for all you do.
Brian.
welcome.
All right,
Brian.
thank you for letting us
You
run
will
a
see
little
my
long.
face again at 6.
Did you do this?
I'm happy to hear that. I didn't
Kathy,
see
you should go
anything.
get food and bring us food.
Did you adjourn? Somebody said adjourn?
Adjourned.